Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, along with my co-host, Rachel Santizo. We have two special guests here who we will introduce in a second. We just got our analytics in from last week, Rachel.
Okay.
And our number one city in America was... This one's normal. It's Salt Lake City, so it's
It is?
2,100 plays last week. But guess what our second largest city was?
Tell me, Randall.
It's the one.
I always guess
It's the one
wrong.
that always keeps popping up, and I can't figure out why. It's Columbus, Ohio.
It's because you're from
1,300
there.
plays.
I
And
believe-
every time we look at our analytics, Columbus is right up there toward the top. And I can't figure out why.
It's because they're a huge fan of you.
Yeah, well,
I
mean,
believe it. I believe this.
I did go to school there, and I tended bar there, but I don't think that somebody from 40 years ago is going to watch a podcast because I served them a beer.
I believe it, though. I
You
do.
know, right.
It's my story,
You're
and I'm
intact.
sticking to it.
Our guest today, I love the organization. I'm biased, but I love the organization that they're with Ruff Haven Crisis Sheltering. Kristina Pulsipher and Marisa Hernandez, who both, you're the
Executive director.
executive director and you're
Director of operations.
director of operations. Okay. And this is, they're getting a fair amount of publicity, but not enough. This is one of the most
More.
It's one of the most extraordinary organizations in Utah or around the country. Tell us what you do and why you're so extraordinary.
Oh, okay. So basically, our mission is to keep pets with their people, so their families, to avoid going into the shelter or if they're going through a crisis or a hardship. So our main program is basically our crisis sheltering program. And so if someone is going into some sort of temporary crisis, hardship, that could include hospitalization, substance use treatment, homelessness, eviction, those kinds of things. Domestic violence is a big one. Then we will shelter their pets, typically up to 90 days. Sometimes it's a little bit over. So
For
that
free.
for free. Yes, all of our services are free. There's no cost, and so that they can reunify with their pet and they don't have to lose them to another family or the shelter. So not only does it reunify with the family, it has the best outcomes, but then that also takes the burden off of already really full shelters and rescues and things like that to focus on where they need to. So then we do lots of other pet retention services, vaccine clinics. We go out to a lot of the encampments.
For free again.
I know.
Yes, it is for free. So
They go out to, and disclaimer here, I'm on the board.
we did wrangle Randall
I
to be
have
on the
to,
board.
But it's because I believe in it, not because I was forced to or anything else. And there's so many, and one of the reasons I wanted to become involved was I chaired an AA meeting down on the block when the block was the block, and an awful lot of the people who came into the AA meetings had pets, and if they ran into a crisis situation where they had to be hospitalized or they were arrested, their pets went. They didn't know frequently where their pets went, and if they did go to the county shelter, they had to pay a fine to get them out, and they didn't have any money. And I mean, I had grown men crying because they lost their pets and they couldn't get them back. And you, in your situation, you would have taken care of the pets.
Yeah, in many situations, we do help with some incarceration. We also pay impound fees when applicable or when we feel like it's a situation that warrants that. So we do work very, very closely with a lot of our animal welfare providers as well as, social services. And we've housed clients for Odyssey House as well.
Yeah.
And Marisa, the people stay at your place. I see. You say I don't like animals.
They're
I
furry
call them
people.
Yeah, the furry people. Many of them are housed at your place. Tell us, you have a...
Yeah, so I own a boarding facility downtown, and I had helped people on and off coming in begging for services just because of the location I was in. And so then Kristina was with another organization that she left. We came together and decided that this area was a great place to house the animals. So we house about 70% of the dogs and cats at our facility, and then we have private foster homes for the others.
And get a free plug-in for your facility. Wow.
So it's Dogs All Day. It's 1370 South 400 West. So
Right.
we do boarding, grooming, daycare for profit and for not profit.
Right. And you have this, what do you call the place where you keep the cats? I steer away from it.
So that's Paradise City.
Paradise.
That was named by a donor. And so that's Paradise City. We can house about 10 cats on site, and it's a great community cat room, lots of enrichment in there, and most of them love it. Well, it's a cat, so they don't love it. They tolerate
Yeah.
it. So
I've seen pictures. That you might want to look up their Facebook page or one of their other social media pages, because they post all these wonderful pictures. You had this cat that liked to hang on people's
yeah.
shoulder. Describe that.
So that was Cow. We loved Cow. Cow
the cat.
Cow was definitely a volunteer favorite. Cow kind of got us to start our TikTok because we wanted to do a bunch of cow photos. So he'd jump from way behind, and then he'd land right on your shoulder and then wrap around your neck.
Kitty scarf.
Yes. And every once in a while, I'd...
It would scare you if you weren't
No,
expecting
it
Yeah,
would.
like-
I'd turn, and he'd
There he
miss,
is.
and then he'd just go flying through the air. So...
I can't even handle all this cuteness right now.
And he
It
just
is
reunified
like-
with his family, and we got the cutest photo of him with his person on the shoulders. And yeah, they're back home. They have a new home, and he had a cat brother too. So
The question a news guy might ask is, how in the world do you finance all this? If you're a nonprofit and I can bring my pet in for free while I go into rehab, how do you finance all this?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was donated by Marisa, right? So initially starting off having a boarding facility is huge. So she donated, most of the space and the time right from the get-go. So that was a huge help for us to get started. I mean, we're in a fortunate position. So there are some of these organizations across the country. They're developing a little bit more, but many of them are just solely foster-based, or they're out of like a humane society or a shelter kind of a situation. So our model's a little bit unique, so that helped. And then just as we grow, people loved the model. We are very unique in Utah, and so a lot of private donations come in, and then we were very fortunate to get a substantial PetSmart grant for 2 years last year. So that has helped, and we have gotten some smaller grants and things like that to help as well.
And this isn't a small organization. I mean, they've only been in business for over a year. What were your year-end figures in terms of number of animals and everything?
So June 2nd will be our second year anniversary, and we've served definitely over about 450 animals, I would guess, in that time period.
And that's just through the crisis
Just
program.
through the crisis program. So we've really tried to expand into other services and resources for low cost and unhoused individuals as well. So we do a quarterly free vaccination clinic just to anyone in the community. So we just had one on Sunday. We served 218 pets. So again, vaccines, microchips, nail trim, food, everything like that for free.
They're wonderful.
Well, I know I'm in awe right now.
Yeah.
What kind of animals do you serve?
It's mostly dogs and cats. So
Okay.
we've definitely had some requests. We had a ferret initially. We can't house any other animals at the facility.
No
And
snakes.
No snakes.
Yeah.
So if we have an available foster, which we always are in need of, is we can maybe look at like small animals, rabbits, guinea pigs, things like that.
Okay. What happens if the person is longer than 90 days or something happens?
So sometimes we can extend depending on the circumstance at no fault of their own, right?
Yeah.
So we work a lot with case managers. Say you're at Odyssey and your case manager says, oh my gosh, they're so close. We're at this 90 days. Can we give them 2 more weeks? Absolutely, we can do that. If ultimately the owner decides that they can't reunify with their pet, we work very closely to help them rehome, but we give the power back to the owner
Yeah.
to say, like, this is not the time in my life to have this pet.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful for them to make that decision,
Mm-hmm.
and we respect that, and then we go ahead and help them with that.
And they have set up something that's really cool. I call it a pet dating page. Okay, like just the way we would go online if we wanted to find somebody to date. Describe your pet dating page.
It's more mail order bride, I would say.
Oh, okay. Either way, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, so we have a website that is not like an adoption. So we do not have an actual adoption program in our organization. So we will assist owners to rehome if they need to. So whether or not that's providing a private, finding a private adopter, or if they feel like going to a rescue might be the best option. But we created a website so that people can post their animals who need to find a new home directly. So it's a rehoming site. Basically, what most people turn to is Facebook and KSL, and those aren't always the best outcomes. There's kind of maybe people with not good intentions, things like that. And so we wanted to create like a safe space. All animals must be spayed and neutered to be posted, because we don't want to have more animals in the shelter,
Right.
and so we
And
don't
practice safe sex.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, but other than that, and we've had a lot of success with people just finding someone who looks at that, and we just pulled stats actually, and that's the Find a Pet page is our second most trafficked page right now. So, on our website, so we're getting.
So you can go on and say, I'm looking for a pet. Or you can go on and say, I'm looking to get
For a new family for
for
my
a new
pet, for
family
various
my pet.
reasons, right? And so,
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of stigma in animal welfare about people
Yeah.
rehoming their pets and not going through like a shelter or a rescue. And we really want to show that this is a very progressive way for an individual to be involved in where their pet goes.
And I think one thing COVID really showed us is nothing's stable, right?
Right.
And so you can go in with the best intention of caring for this animal, and then 1 week can destroy your entire life.
Right.
And being able to recognize that this is not the right time in your life to care for the pet, but being able to choose where that pet goes is just awesome.
Right. Why do you care so much and your heart like to say here, like you
Rachel,
ladies
these people
are
are
incredible.
nutsy animal
We really
lovers.
are.
I know.
Describe
like,
each of your animal
you
situations.
ladies are incredible.
Yeah, I've got
like,
4 English bulldogs, and they're we have one that's like a hospice foster who's been with us for 2 years. Who she's just a little cranky old lady that we love. So
And she posts pictures all the time,
I
just
can
like
relate.
just like you would of your grandkids. So
yeah. It's like the
We don't
same
want to
type
see
of
kids.
love. And
We
Yeah,
just
we
want to
just
see
wanna see
dogs.
pets.
you just donate this space. Like, where did you come from? Like,
We like to say that we're both crazy, but it's really interesting. We've found that everybody else in our organization is equally as crazy and dedicated as we are. That's been the most amazing part, I think. I think because we focus so much on human and animals together, that's where we sort of get the love of the organization and the support.
they're fun people. To be around.
we are fun. That's what they do.
Yes.
We do have a lot of fun while we do this, and so I think that helps balance. And I think my background in social work and then our with Animal, and she's amazing like on site, so it really helps. So I do we both work a lot with the clients. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of case management with people that we're doing day to day. So we have to be able to like working with people, and like as we you'll hear a lot in animal welfare organizations that they hate people, they love animals, and that's just not part of our mission. So they're equal. We love people too. We serve both ends of the leash. Oh, she's got her shirt on there.
Love
That is
both
adorable.
ends of the leash.
So we really want to focus, because also you can't save animals without people, right? Who are the ones doing the work? So we like to highlight our clients and the struggles that they're going through, and show that they are making incredible sacrifices to stay with their pets, like not getting life-saving medical care. They will, treatment, mental health treatment. They will not leave their pets, and so they forgo these things, and then they're sometimes put in a position where they no longer have that choice because now they have to go to the hospital, right? So yeah, that's kind of, we're pet lovers too, and like we just think about what would we do if if we didn't have each other or friends or family or support or leaving a domestic violence situation.
And even though they're large, they deal with everyone on an individual basis. I mean, I'm their contact at Odyssey House, and like they'll have a client, a potential client for Odyssey or any place else, First Step, any place, and say, I'd come into treatment, but I can't bring my animal.
Yeah.
Will you take them for the time that I'm in treatment? And frequently, not frequently, but occasionally I'll get a call from them saying, is the person still in treatment? Is he going to get out shortly because we still have his dog or his cat? And they care about each animal and each person that they're dealing with.
Oh,
And so one of the things, and I never thought we'd be doing this, but when people check into a treatment center like Odyssey, they're asked to sign releases of information, and it could be for your mother, your father, your wife, your husband, and now we're asking if they left a pet, they put, and I've seen it on the ROI form saying Ruff Haven Crisis Sheltering. That way, when she calls and says, "Is Jim Smith still in the program?" I can tell her, because normally we couldn't do that unless there was a release of information. So they work with, I mean, it's an amazing group, you know.
Yeah, so we are all volunteer run, and so everyone is a volunteer with our organization, which I think is, really helps us because we know what it's like too. And obviously, the two of us spend the most amount of time in our day-to-day lives doing this. But yeah, and we have a really fun group of amazing volunteers from foster parents and things like that. A lot of good camaraderie, and that really believe in the mission and really support.
They had a thank you picnic luncheon at which park was it?
It was the Sugar House,
No,
Fairmont.
Fairmont Park, and because everybody, and it was for like all the volunteers who help. And obviously you can bring your dog or whatever, whoever.
We try to be as dog friendly whenever we can. So
it was like, I don't know how many people we had. I was there, and it's like, I mean, there's barking dogs everywhere and dogs sniffing other dogs'
a bounce
butts.
house.
Dogs in bounce houses.
Yeah, I mean, but they're fun get-togethers, and it's always, I don't know if this is a fair statement because you work in the criminal justice system too, but I think it's a fair statement to say that people who love animals are generally good people. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we find. And then that honestly, like 99% of the people that we work with are very lovely and, great people and, want to do the right thing and are very grateful for, us taking in their animals and things. And we have two other co-founders as well, Chemo and Stan. So there's four of us that have started this as well. So the four of us are, we've all been working in various other areas with unsheltered community and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and we just try to expand. We actually just started working with Salt Lake County Animal Services, so now we can issue licenses to the pets because that's a real barrier, especially for the unsheltered pet owners, that if they don't have a license, they don't have a rabies shot, then they get charged a lot of fees, they can get impounded. So we were really grateful to develop this partnership with them as well. And so now we can issue licenses and we pay for them, but they don't have to worry about their pets being taken and things like that.
If you go out to any of the homeless encampments, you'll see a ton of animals. One of the things that Odyssey's involved in and Ruff Haven is involved in is resource fairs. The city will identify where they're going to do an abatement, where they're going to clean up and push everybody out. And people like Odyssey or Ruff Haven are asked to show up a couple of days before the abatement. And so they set up a booth, and Odyssey sets up a booth, And guess who gets more attention? Let me see. Somebody who wanting to help their animal or somebody who wants substance use treatment?
Randall says, I have this naloxone for you. And we say, we have dog food and toys. And blankets."
Yeah. So, yeah, you get a good response when you guys go out to those places.
For sure, yeah. I mean, honestly, like people love their pets and their animals
yeah.
so much, and they will do anything for them, right? You often hear about they will feed their pets before they feed themselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, it's all the animals are really well cared for. I think that sometimes is, again, a stereotype that they have, right? That homeless people shouldn't have pets and things like that. So we do have now a vet that comes with us once a month too, who's a volunteer, and he comes out so we can do vet exams and some things like that as well. So that's been a big resource.
I just keep falling more and more in love as you guys speak. I'm like, if you have not met these wonderful ladies, you need to. You need to volunteer. You need to give back. Like, how do you get in touch?
I was going to
So-
because you always need volunteers, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Ruffhaven.org would be the best place to get information. There's a find out more, kind of our programming. There's a volunteer tab. The best is the donate tab. That's my favorite. So that's right up on there too. So, and then our Facebook, we love posting on Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok.
Yeah, so anywhere that we can like serve pets and their people in communities. So we've gone out to the resource centers. We coordinate with them a lot. We were just at the InBetween, the hospice for homeless people. So, we really want to develop our human services partners as well. And we actually do have a client right now in Odyssey House that we've been serving. So
That must be an interesting when you go out to the in-between. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a hospice service for homeless people, people who are dying or people who just got out of the hospital with some kind of major surgery where they need to recuperate. So when you guys go out there, what's it like? I mean, I've been there, and it's not the downer that it sounds like. Everybody
it's
lying around
wonderful.
dying.
It's amazing. And in fact, we just went and helped a dog out who has lived through 4 of its other owners.
You're kidding.
And just stays at the in-between and goes because they say it's one of ours now.
it's a community.
It's a community pet. And so we went out there for that. We've done some grooming for them. They're just so reliant on their animals that even taking them for an hour for a groom is like, it takes a lot of convincing.
bring 'em back?
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but they're just such wonderful people and so thankful. And those dogs are just so well taken care of because they're taking care of their people. They're actual, whether they're registered emotional support, but that's what they're there for. And they're just awesome dogs.
Yeah, so they
And cats.
oh yeah, they have a cat. Roger.
Can't forget about that.
Yeah, so we do offer free grooming services as well for people who are in need. That's an issue that we came across pretty early, especially senior people.
Yeah.
A lot of them have senior pets that have, and they're not very mobile, they're homebound, or they can't afford to get their pets groomed. And so they get really mad at a lot of them are like the small little dogs with hair, right? And so now we actually have 3 volunteer groomers. Marisa's also a groomer. So she started out grooming, and now
She
we
cut
have...
my hair last week.
It's looking amazing. I wondered who did your hair.
It's all
by
making
Marisa.
sense.
I didn't clean my blades in between either.
I have fleas. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so we have that. So yeah, we've been very, very fortunate for a lot of people to kind of latch on to our mission and say, I want to support people in need, and especially people with like amazing skills like grooming and veterinarian stuff. That's very challenging especially for free. There's a vet shortage right now across the country. And so we also work with Canyons Veterinary Clinic. They're our partner vet. Their owner, Dr. Heather Moreau, is on our board as well. And they are an amazing, amazing veterinary clinic. So we also have a former client who's now on our board. She's been on for a while and she's wonderful. So she can provide some peer support services in place as well.
She was smart forming the board. She got me to try to do publicity for the group. She gets
peer
a
support.
vet who donates
Yeah.
veterinary services. I mean,
Brilliant.
I told her, I
brilliant.
said, none of these people are going to say yes. And all of these people said yes. I was like, okay.
We're very convincing. So
You look like a real jerk if you say no to an organization like yours. Let me ask you each individually, what's the most emotional experience you've had so far with Ruff Haven?
Oh gosh, there. Sometimes we like to say that we're dead inside, but we really aren't. Because you have to sort of have that fine line, right? Because if you do this work, you can't let every situation impact you to the point where you can't function, right? But obviously, we love people, we love pets, and I mean, a lot of reunifications. We've had some situations where we've needed to provide, quite frankly, euthanasia services for the pets of people who were ill, had cancers, things like that. That was one that just sticks out right away of a gentleman who was living on the streets with his dog, thought it was a toothache, and it ended up being pretty significant nasal tumors and very advanced. And so we had to tell him what the prognosis was. And I mean, I've never seen like a grown man cry like that and just be so devastated by that. That was really emotional. And so we, then took his pet to be, put to sleep at the vet, and we provide, cremation and a paw print and all of that kind of stuff. So, those are those situations that kind of stick with you about, I know how I feel when I lost my pet. Think about being with your pet 24/7, and they're the only companion that you have. You don't have support, family, and friends to help you. So that was really heartbreaking, and but yeah, so we were glad we could be there.
Well, Kristina's more Debbie Downer. Mine is a good emotion. We had a cat early on, Littlefoot, and his dad was very ill. He was one that would not go to the hospital because there was nobody to take care of his cat. And so somebody found us. I mean, he was our second or third client. And he was living out of his van, had a terrible infection, started going into sepsis. And so we took Littlefoot. We housed Littlefoot for a little while because he was recuperating. He had a lot of stuff going on. But he was back in his van, finally. And we said, Littlefoot's ready to go back with you. And he said, okay. And we'd had Littlefoot for so long. Even I was like, is Littlefoot better off with us? And I was driving over there, and I take Littlefoot out, and I put him back in his dad's van
and
where they're going
spicy.
to live. He was.
Spicy.
You couldn't hold him.
No.
And I mean, I think we had him 6 months, and he swatted me every single time I'd say hi to him. So I take him, and I put him back in with his dad. And the cat is the happiest I've ever seen. He's hugging on his dad. His dad's like holding him up and like...
No biting.
No biting. They were just like back in love again. It was the most amazing thing. And I really learned that my biases too can get in the way and that all these animals want is to be with their people. That's it. They don't care where their people are.
Yeah. Home isn't, a giant home on the avenues or things like that. It really is just their person. And whether or not that's at the resource center in a van or things like that. I mean, we have absolutely no problem reunifying people in those situations. They're not our pets. So we just are there to provide that support.
They take pictures of the reunification, and it's amazing because I have no idea the intellectual level like dogs or cats, but obviously it's higher than what I think it is.
Higher than ours sometimes.
Because they'll be hanging on. They'll be at Ruff Haven for several months, and the second their person walks in, it's just like...
Yeah, they always remember.
It's funny because a lot of our clients say, the animal's going to forget me, the animal's going to forget me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never had one animal forget. And they come out and they sniff. I have the chills right now because it's just my favorite. They come out, they sniff, and it's like 7.2 seconds. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, Mom and Dad. It's crazy.
Full, wiggle, body wiggles. And even the cats, sometimes, again, we've had cats that we just cannot really handle or, they just don't want to be held, but their person goes in and it's like, and they pick them up and it's great. And, so those, we do a lot of storytelling on our social media because of that. We want to really highlight not the hard times that they've had, but the successes that they've had, right? And show that, again, like we said, you'd think that COVID would make us a little bit more empathetic, and I think it has for a lot of people, but there's also been this other weird shift, right, of lack of empathy sometimes. So there's that. Domestic violence is a real big passion of ours. So that's going to be a priority. So we will always prioritize domestic violence cases as well. And we just helped get a bill passed this year in the legislation to include pets in protective orders. So Utah did not have that in there.
You've heard the stories about some angry ex-partner who comes and kills their partner's pet
Right.
out of revenge, and now they can be included in restraining orders for the human.
Right, so they can
that's
include that. So
fantastic.
we're in the process, actually, we'll meet next week to kind of figure out the next steps to make sure that it's on the court sites as well as, the judges know about it, and doing a lot of, and the attorneys and things like that to make sure that they're aware. So
I need to learn all about this.
They do so much. They
I
do so
know.
much. We
we'll tell you.
are out of
I
time,
know.
believe it or not. 30 minutes goes fast.
yeah,
Yes, it does.
The most help you need would be,
Fostering, for sure. We need a
Fostering.
lot of fostering.
and she says money.
Well, always money. And then our biggest need are obviously muzzles and leashes. Yeah.
Muzzles can help with keep the pets in the resource centers.
And if you want to,
Oh, okay.
if you want to learn more about them, ruffhaven.org. And it's just, I'm biased again, but it's
I fell in love.
Are you biased now?
Oh, so
See?
biased.
Randall's
I
amazing too.
love-
How can you not want him on your board?
Oh my
So
goodness.
Ruffhaven.org. Thank you for watching an uplifting and wonderful edition
Yeah.
of Odyssey House Journals.